Hi, I'm Mr. Pink.
And I'm Hydra.
And today we're going to do how to sculpt teeth.
How to sculpt, how to sculpt, how to sculpt, how to sculpt.
All right, this is a very special episode of How to Sculpt because as you saw in the little intro there, we've got a special guest sculptor in the form of the Hydra. Hailing all the way from Germany, but we're hanging out together, so we decided to make some, hey, party time! Some videos together.
Here goes the cedar.
Okay, let's see if we can make this work. So, in this video, we can see that the Hydra is getting some Nivea, some lubricant for his tools. How important is lubricating your tools?
Most important. And the great thing is, as all of you followers already know because they all read your articles, is that using Nivea is like having the mixture of fat and water, and therefore you don't have to rinse your sculpt after you sculpted something. So you don't need to wash off any fat like when you're using Vaseline. So yeah, I found through all my years that Nivea works just pretty well.
Okay, so I guess we should talk about what this is. You're sculpting teeth here.
Yes.
And what you've started with is?
Basically triangles, which are the rough outlines of the teeth.
Oh, to be clear, this is teeth in a closed mouth, not an open mouth.
Yes. Open mouth, I would just make small spikes of green stuff and cut them off, make gums, and then push like those teeth in there.
Yeah.
But here we have like closed mouth teeth, grinning thing, pretty cartoony, which you could use maybe on rhino doors or the bellies of, I don't know, Nurgle things, whatever.
Because like you've seen in some of the other videos, we're starting very large here. This is like a giant mouth, but that's more so that you can actually see what's going on. So picture this much smaller, whereas he's making those big long lines. It'd just be like individual cuts, kind of.
Yep.
With the knife tool.
Yes.
Oh, I guess you should also talk about the tools you're using. So here, it's a knife tool.
Yeah, that's basically the the sculpting tool I bought years ago at Games Workshop. What I did was sand down and file down the blade of it to make it like an appropriate blade. Because when you cut through, well, it's more like cutting at that stage. You need to be very sharp at the tip. And sometimes I find that the tool is still too wide, so I use a X-Acto blade knife to do that, to draw these lines. At the moment, as you see, this is working pretty well. So I use the wide blade to make the space between the individual teeth wider.
Yep. You just started doing something different. What are you doing here?
I'm just doing half circles around the lower or upper part of the teeth.
The base, I guess, of each tooth?
Yes.
Where the gum is?
Yes. And the trick is to not just like draw a line, but to push the putty a little bit upwards while doing it. So it kind of pushes out a bit. So it gets more of a 3D.
Oh, so it's not like a straight line cut down into the putty. You're kind of pushing the putty underneath the gum where it, so it looks like the tooth is going in under the gum there.
Right.
It's hard to see in this video, but yeah, you're not just cutting a round circle. You're going in on an angle and getting it in underneath there, stretching it underneath.
Yeah, pretty much. And as you see, I'm turning this thing up and back and forth and left and right and around. And when I sculpt models, I pin them and put them on cork, so you can turn it. And I think it's like drawing. If you have like a paper in front of you and think of it as glued to the table,
yeah,
there are certain lines you cannot do.
That's a good way to describe it.
And what I'm using there is when you see the tip of the blade of the sculpting tool, I always twist the tip of the blade and go from the deepest point to the middle of the gun. I never draw the half circle full, but
You start from left and start from right and come to the center?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Therefore, it gets.
When you say twist, you mean like you're flipping it? Like you're doing. When you come. The point of the blade is always in like the corner between the two teeth kind of
Yes.
thing, and then aiming the blade towards the center of the tooth.
Yes.
That seems very complicated, but hopefully people know what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah, just see it out.
But
How I'll flip it.
as you said, like you're turning it all around. The other thing to note is that you're sculpting this flat, whereas on a model this would be curved around like a face or a mouth or
Yeah.
whatever. And the sculpting flat is just, it's easier to film. It'd be a lot harder to film if you had it on an actual like 3D model.
Exactly, especially since we're in France right now.
Yes, on vacation.
On vacation and having no model who desperately needs a new face. So what I'm doing right now is like pushing the putty inwards so the lines go deeper.
Between the teeth?
Between the teeth.
Okay, here you're trying to decide between the Hydra sculpting tool and the silicone brush.
Well, on a regular model, I would probably use the
It's like a nail. It's like a sanded
Yes.
nail, right?
I would use the sanded nail, but since it's that big, I'm using the silicone tip.
Could you try to use because that's a medium-sized silicone tip. Could you try to use like a smaller one, the like more pointed one in this? If it was like a smaller model, or it would still be too big. You need something as small as like a nail.
You could, but the thing is that the tip of a silicone tool would work, but you need more of just the tip.
Yeah.
The tip is like shaped like a pyramid.
Yeah.
And the nail has this rounded tip and then goes like straight backwards,
Yeah.
and then that kind of defines the shape.
So you put you want like a line kind of across the gum?
Yeah.
Could you use like a ball burnisher if someone had that, like a really small, the ball tools?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Probably.
There you go. That's what you would prefer to use, that tool, which is
Yes.
like a rounded down nail.
Yeah. And that is basically used just to push in a little bit of putty upwards between the different tooth.
This is the base of the gums, kind of.
Yes. So it gets even more like the stretched skin between individual tooth feel to it.
Yep.
It's something it sometimes shows on models and it doesn't, but I think it's a little detail that really adds like another level to it.
What's the hardest part of sculpting teeth like this?
I think the hardest part is at the very beginning, getting the shapes of the triangles right.
Yeah.
It's easy when you have like a chaotic demon face with a different tooth sizes. If they should be like all the same size, that would be really hard to do.
Yeah.
Afterwards, it's just repeating the same process at every individual tooth.
Yeah. What are you doing here?
I take the tip of the sculpting tool, sand it down nail, and I kind of push in a little bit at the base of a tooth and pull upwards towards the tip of the tooth to give it a definition. So when you later you would paint the teeth like bleach bone and go over it with a ink.
A wash, yeah.
Or wash, yeah, that would kind of settle down at the base of the tooth and give it these nice stripings.
Okay, so it looks like you're done, but let's have we're gonna do a closer look at this. So just holding it up to the camera and flipping it through a couple of different directions so you can see the details. But that's pretty much it. Is there anything else that you wanted to give in terms of tips related to teeth or mouths or for Tyranids, demons, anything like that?
Always brush them, because there's nothing like a conifex without teeth.
All right. Thanks for being on How to Sculpt, Hydra. It was great having you as a guest sculptor.
Thank you very much.